Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 12, text number 15. Agno Gura Vatmani Cha Sarvutesh Vadokshajam Udhaisva Dharma Pashet Apravishtam Pravishtavat Agno Gura Vatmani Cha Sarvutesh Vadokshajam Udhaisva Dharma Pashet Apravishtam Pravishtavat Guru Manicha Sarabhuteshva Dokshajam Bhutai Swadharma Bipashet Apratishtam Apishtavat Agnova Guravamanicha Sarabhuteshva Dokshajam Bhutai Swadharma Bipashet Apravishtam Pravishtavat Agnogaravabhanicha Sarvabhuteshva Dokshajam Mataji. Dokshajam Bhutai Swadharma Bipashet Apravishtam Apravishtavat Agno in the fire, Guru in the spiritual master, Atmani in oneself, Cha also, Sarabhuteshu and every living entity, Adokshajam, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, cannot be seen or perceived with the material eyes or other senses. Bhutai, with all living entities. Swadharma Bhi, along with his lordship's paraphernalia. Pashet, one should see. Apravishtam, not entered. Pravishtavat, also entered. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. One should realize that in the fire, in the spiritual master, in oneself, and in all living entities, in all circumstances and conditions, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu has simultaneously entered and not entered. He is situated externally and internally as the full controller of everything. Purport. Realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's omnipresence is the perfect realization of the absolute truth, to be obtained through the study of the Vedic literatures. As stated in the Brahma Samhita 535, Antantarasta Paramanu Chirantarasta. The Lord is situated within the universe, within the heart of every living entity, and also within the atom. We should understand that whenever the Supreme Personality of Godhead is present, He is present with all His paraphernalia, including His name, form, associates, and servants. The living entity is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus one should understand that since the Supreme Lord has entered the atom, the living entities are also there. Oh, we're all in some atom somewhere. not much space, but in the atom, but somehow or another we can get around. And within every atom, there's a Supreme Personality of Godhead. And within the Supreme Personality of Godhead are all the universes. So try to figure that out. And all the universes, he's there in every atom. And every atom, he's there with all, in him are all the universes. Can anyone figure this out? Explain it. Do you feel like you're in an atom? Okay. One must accept the inconceivable quality of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for no one can understand from the material point of view how the Lord is all-pervasive and yet is situated in his own abode, Goloka Vrindavan. So it's achintya, is inconceivable. And if we try to conceive of it with our tiny brain, we won't be able to. It's impossible. But then again, try to conceive of how we're in a body and we have nothing to do with the body, and yet we believe that the only thing we are is some body or mind. So, and every living entity, of which there are unlimited numbers practically in every universe, is believing the same false conception. So what kind of energy is that can bewilder countless living entities, including ourselves? If you don't believe it, just read the Bhagavad Gita. This realization is possible if one strictly follows the regular principles of ashram, brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas. Srila Madhvacharya says in this regard, Apravishta sarvagata pravishtas te nurag anu tva nurupada rupavan evam dvirupo bhagavan harer eko janardanaha. Supreme Personality of God has the original form. Supreme Personality of Godhead in his original form has not entered everything, apravishtaha. But in his impersonal form, he has entered, pravishtaha. Thus he has entered and not entered simultaneously. This is also explained in the Bhagavad Gita 9.4, wherein the Lord says, Maya tatamidam sarvam jagara vyaktamurtina matstani sarabhutani nachaham tesh vabashtitaha. By me in my unmanifested form, the entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I'm not in them. The Lord can deify himself. Oh, the Lord can defy himself. Thus there is variety in unity, ekatvam bahutvam. Translation, one should realize that in the fire and the spiritual master in oneself, in all living entities, in all circumstances and conditions, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, has simultaneously entered and not entered. He is situated externally and internally as the full controller of everything. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskatyade Satarne. We know that in one sense we have entered into the material world and have not actually entered into the material world also. Although we believe we're part of the material world. And indeed, our consciousness is now in the material world. The material world is actually one of Krishna's pastimes. So we've never left Krishna's pastimes. We just got into the wrong pastime, that's all. We're all incarnations, but we're the full incarnations. Gopi, where they have this word in most, gopi. What is the for full in Slovenian? What's the word for a full? A dark. What's that? Many words for foolish. Gloop. What does that mean? What's that? Oh, it's Croatian. Gloop. Anyhow, whatever it is, we... Because after all, we may believe that we know so many things, but we don't know who we are. We're aware of so many things, but we're not even conscious of our own selves. So therefore, we're adark or pradark? Vedark. Baydark. 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 And Vedarki, is that plural? Vedarki. Vedarki. What's that?
So many.
Yeah, well, we'll try one. One is enough. Are they all different degrees of foolishness, or are they all the same? What's the most foolish? What's that? We're not the most anything. So out of foolishness, we actually think ourselves to be intelligent. The most foolish people are the people who think that they're the most intelligent. They know nothing at all about themselves or about reality, but they think they know everything. So therefore they know less than nothing. It's all right to be a little humble and admit I don't know anything, but to think I know everything, then when you know nothing is very bad. Now, we begin with explaining to people that your body's changing. That's knowable. I'm sure we can meet some people who actually believe that their body's not changing. Even if you say your body's changing, they'll defy you simply to be arrogant. My body's not changing. Oh, you have the same body as you had in the womb of your mother? Yes, exactly the same. It hasn't changed at all. It's just gotten bigger. You mean it hasn't changed at all, but it's gotten bigger? Isn't getting bigger changing? No, it's absolutely the same body. Okay, sure. Go. I think we'll try to explain it to someone else. So a rational person, a sane person, will admit my body is changing. And the ultimate change is called death. Now, a rational person will also admit that I've been in so many bodies. Otherwise, how can we remember being a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old or 15, however much in the past we can go? We were there, we were experiencing it, and maybe even in our memory now, we can remember our first day in school. Can anyone remember their first day in school? Do you remember your first day in school? A little bit. For me, it was such a traumatic experience. Not that I was so attached to my family, but I didn't like, at first, being away from my toys. Anyhow, I can remember that, and probably all of us can remember at least maybe 5 years ago, I hope. Kali Yuga hasn't progressed so far yet. We were there, we were experiencing something, and we're here now experiencing something different. So how can we have been there experiencing something in the past and be here experiencing something in the present and be a different person? Now, in the past, we weren't aware of who we are, and we're still not aware of who we are. It doesn't make but we're still something. We're still someone who's conscious. Just like at night, we're still conscious. We leave this body and enter into another existence. And if you become a prince or a queen or a king, you actually believe, for the most part, for that what seems to be a very short period of time, that you actually are that identity. You don't think you're someone having a dream, do you? You don't think, oh, I become a princess, but actually I'm so-and-so, or sleeping, having a dream. No, we actually believe that we are that personality when we're in the dream. Similarly, when we're awake, we're also dreaming. We're just believing that we're this personality, that's all. So that much we should understand is inconceivable. How this energy can cause us to believe that we're something we're not, and cause us to forget completely who we actually are. Now, it says here, Varnashram Dharma. Varnashram Dharma is simply to make people into a human being. That's all. Human being is someone who has some rational intelligence. Rational intelligence means that they can control their senses and their mind with their intelligence. They simply are not following the dictation unrestrictedly of their mind and senses. That's for the animals. Prabhupada always gives the example, if a cat eats a mouse, you don't chastise the cat, you rascal cat, you're in a devotee family. We're teaching you nonviolence. You should become a vegetarian, but anyhow, it's all right, but don't eat meat in my house. I don't think the cat will be very much impressed with your philosophy. Because he follows his senses. Even if you preach to him, maybe if you train him, or if you feed him enough food, he can't eat any more. He'll still play with the mouse and then kill it, just for the fun of it. Did you ever see a cat playing with a mouse? Have you ever seen a cat playing with a mouse? It just hits the mouse back and forth and enjoys the fact that the mouse is in anxiety. I'm the controller. Wow, you stupid mouse. Yeah. Bow down before it's too late. Because the cat has doesn't have any intelligence that it should be controlling its mind and senses and refrain from these things and fixing its mind, of course, on Krishna. Maybe there's some rare cat from some previous life has that consciousness, but generally not. But if a human being just follows its senses and mind, and the only reason why it restrains from following the senses and mind is out of fear, without higher consciousness, just like a dog. If the dog comes to the table and wants to eat something, and the person at the table takes the newspaper and goes, whack! And he runs away from the table. After 5 or 6 attempts, he'll get the message. And he won't come to the temple. Not that he's learned his lesson. I'm a slow learner, but I got the message. He got the message, but next week or the next day, he's going to come back to the table. Or maybe he'll get one of the children at the table to feed him underneath the table. Fido, here, I know you're hungry. And every day he'll be underneath the table. But a human being is supposed to gradually learn how to control his mind and senses so that he can fix it on Krishna without becoming disturbed. The whole idea is not just to restrain the mind and senses for the sake of restraining the mind and senses and show how strong I am, I'm so restrained. People who exhibit such qualities usually get into trouble. As I pointed out many times, Bhagavan Rajneesh, known as Osho here, I guess, that he was a brahmachari and was very proud of how powerful a brahmachari was. And put an announcement in all India, all the big Indian papers, I'm the greatest brahmachari. I challenge any woman to have me fall down. So he went all over, the message went all over India. Finally, one prostitute, famous prostitute in Delhi, challenged him, came to his ashram, spent the night with him, and the next day he wrote an article, Liberation Through Sex. So he was so proud, so I'm so powerful, I'm so restrained in the senses, but ultimately he was a failure. especially because of his pride. He didn't take shelter of Krishna, and therefore he simply got into difficulty. But it's a gradual process. The amount of restraint for the Shudras, the amount of restraint for the Kshatriyas, the amount of restraint for the Vaishyas, the amount of restraint for the Brahmanas is completely different. It's not all the same. It's not that you start as a Shudra, you go to a Bhagavatam class and decide to become a Brahmin. No more will my mind deviate from Krishna. It's on Krishna all the time now. Just like there was one devotee, he thought, let me always think about Krishna. So he devised a plan. I got the perfect plan. So they have this harmonica strap you put on your ears. Did you ever see that? And then he wrote the Hare Krishna mantra on it. So all he could see all day long was the Hare Krishna mantra. So he figured, this way, I'm actually going to fix my mind upon Krishna without deviation. And he did it, and he was chanting japa constantly. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And he was walking around the temple with his Hare Krishna, watching it. And then he got a little bored, so he started walking around the temple building. Hare Krishna. After some weeks, then he started to walk around the block, chanting Hare Krishna all the time. And then after a month, he walked around the block one day and he disappeared. So artificially trying to remember Krishna without going through the process will be a failure. Of course, what do we have to do with Varnashram? We're pure devotees. We're Vaishnavas. We're Vaishnavis. What do we have to do with this system? Well, then we have to understand we're aspiring devotees. And we're taking to the process of sadhana bhakti, not simply to show, for the most part, an example for the people in general. For the most of us, we're taking to sadhana bhakti so that we can actually come to the platform of bhakti. And while we're chanting Hare Krishna, while we're worshiping the deities, while we're hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, while we're serving the devotees and living in a holy place, and all other spiritual activities that we're performing, then we should simultaneously also try to gradually control our mind and senses by regular principles. The most important of all the regular principles for us is chant Hare Krishna without offense. Of course, the most important one is Sadatam, Smartavyak Sadatam Vishnur, Vismartak Jatu Nakanchit, Sarva Vidi Nisedyasyur, Etiyor Eva Kinkara. Do you know that verse? Now we learned something new. Or at least we're reminded of something we heard, but we forgot. Smartavyak Sadatam Vishnur. What does that mean, Jagannath Sutra?
I think this verse is speaking about how we should always remember Krishna and never forget him. All injunctions are just servants of his Guru.
Yes, that's right. So that's the most important thing. That's what all this sadhana bhakti is concerned about, so that we can always remember Krishna and never forget him. If we do that, of course, there are persons who are always remembering Krishna and never forgetting him, like Ramdas. You know Ramdas? Yeah, because he lived 500 years ago. Probably you met him, but you forgot. So Ramdas was accompanying Gopal Bhatt, who became a Goswami, after his Gopal Bhatt's family left this world. He went back to Jagannath Puri in order to join Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So on his way, he met Ramdas, because generally people, at that time, they didn't take, wasn't they went out for a walk and they decided to walk to Jagannath Puri. It took many, many days to get there, and there were people on the way who were, all kinds of people you meet that you didn't want to meet. So generally people went in groups. So in his group that was going there was one Ramdas, and Ramdas was always chanting Ram, Ram, Ram. Maybe it was Hari Ram sometimes, but it was Ram, Ram. He was supposedly a great devotee of Lord Ram, chanting Ram, Ram, Ram. And he served Gopal Bhatt Goswami on the way there by carrying his clothes and washing them, whatever was necessary. Although Gopal Bhatt was very reluctant to accept such service, still he did it because he said, you're a Brahmin and I'm a Shudra and therefore I should serve you appropriately. When Gopal Bhatt Goswami and Ramdas arrived at Jagannath Puri, Gopal Bhatt went to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and was greeted by him. Great affection, embraced him, and they talked about his family, and Gopal Bhatt stayed there for many days in Jagannath Puri. Finally, he introduced Ramdas to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Ramdas, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu completely ignored. Because he knew, although Ramdas is always chanting Ram, 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 he thinks he is Ram, or he's going to become Ram. That's why he's chanting Ram, Ram, Ram. So he realized he's impersonalist. Why should I bother with him? He has nothing to do with me. But we're cultivating, trying to remember Krishna all the time and not forget him. And at the same time, trying to cultivate devotion. That Krishna is not simply some name. He's the proprietor of everything. He's the controller of everything. He's the friend of everyone. And he's not different from his name. And we can associate personally with him and his devotees simply by chanting Hare Krishna. So Varnashram system is meant to deepen our experience of meditation on Krishna. And therefore there's a gradual increase of knowledge and detachment through the different ashrams. At the same time, the varnas provide economic development so that one doesn't have to be in anxiety, because anxiety is over usually one or two things. The main anxiety, well, there's only 4 anxieties people have. Main one is eating, second one is sleeping, third one is mating and defense. That's it. If you solve those problems, you have no more anxiety. There's nothing to be anxiety about. I mean, we can figure out what to be an anxiety if we really want to be an anxiety. But those are the main anxieties. So Varna solves those problems. Well, at least Varna solves eating and sleeping. And ashram solves mating and defending. Because if you're in Varna, you get your necessities, you'll get something to eat and a place to sleep. And if you're in ashram, then it'll solve your problem of mating, and you're supposed. All the ashrams also have an aspect of defense against Maya. Fix your mind upon Krishna, and at the same time avoid falling into the illusory energy, which is, as Prahlad Maharaj said, there's no enemy in this world except for what? The uncontrolled mind. Yeah, so that's our main enemy, although we think we can see there's so many other enemies out there, but it's our uncontrolled mind, which is our greatest enemy. So, as mentioned here, that Krishna is inconceivable. We don't have to figure out everything about Krishna. We're not going to, there may not be any time when we can figure out how Krishna can be in every atom, and we're there with him. It doesn't feel like we're in an atom right now, because we don't know where we are. So, Mother Yasoda, when she opened Krishna's mouth, she saw all the universes. And then she also saw herself looking into Krishna's mouth, seeing if he had any dirt. So, we don't have to figure it out. It's not necessary. As a matter of fact, in Goloka Vrindavan, no one is interested in such things. They simply love Krishna. They don't care who he is. He may be God, he may be a coward boy, it doesn't really matter. They're so much in love with Krishna, that's all they're concerned about, to serve him. Right now, we don't believe in Krishna so fully, so with such faith, with such firm faith. And therefore, for us, we have to find out something about Krishna's potency, just to have some faith that we should take shelter of him. If someone is strong, wealthy, famous, intelligent, we may take shelter of them sometimes, but not always. We may doubt whether this person is sufficiently qualified to actually protect me under these circumstances. But if Krishna is unlimitedly strong, unlimited famous, unlimited wealthy, then we can take shelter of Krishna in any circumstance. So if anyone can enter into every atom, he's a person worthy to take shelter of, especially if he's in every atom in every universe, and there are unlimited universes, and he's simultaneously in Goloka Vrindavan, playing with his cowherd boys and the gopis. I mean, that's power. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions, comments? Yes.
On this point that you were making at the beginning, if we would take an average person and speak to him, I think that they would definitely agree that their body is changing. And I don't see how this disagreement with changing the body.
Well, try it. You'll find people, especially, did you ever tell people, try to explain the changing body, how their body is changing, but they're not changing? Do they immediately accept it? Yeah, right. You're right. I'm eternal.
No. They say that the body is changing, but they are also changing. This is...
I mean, they can't remember when they were an hour ago.
They do.
I know, so what to do? As they say, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So what to do? Give them some prasadam, chant Hare Krishna with them, maybe. Their brains will sprout. Anything else? After all, Prabhupada would sometimes say, nowadays people, they say we're brainwashing, but actually people don't have any brains to wash. Or if they do have some brains, it's made out of cow dung. And the more you wash, it doesn't make any difference. But if it's made out of cow dung, then it's fertile grounds for some knowledge. Cow dung is a very good fertilizer. So we put some Hare Krishna and some prasadam in there, and maybe it'll sprout Krishna consciousness. Okay, thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande.